shit. Welcome back, my friends, to the show which never ends. With an anthropomorphic hen, come inside, come inside. Come join me and Viv, talk about creatures that live in the darkness of your id. Come inside, come inside. Come inside, believe me folks, it's great. Streaming on the last Wednesday at 8. Come inside and hear us well, you know. We'll take you places you want to go. Come and see the show. The Comedy Rhino. Come and see the show. It's great, you know. They're behind that box. Criminal in a box. There's Canadian Dave Scott. Come inside, come inside. Goodness, it's his nibs. The one and only in Squid. Exposing late Malta fibs. Come inside, come inside. Come inside. The show's about to start. An insane mix of science, class and art. Come and see the show. It's good, you know. Come and see the show. The last Wednesday show.
That's good.
Well, we're here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who don't know, my name is John Dines, and on the last Wednesday of every month, we come along here to do our arcane business. It's normally me and the lovely Vivian Powell, but she has her husband's birthday today, and she has a load of children and grandchildren all milling around the house, so she won't be joining us until later on. So we can all take the piss out of her when she's late. I want to introduce you to our regular panel, just in case you don't know. Over there on the right-hand side, we have got Dave Scott, all the way from Canada. Underneath, dressed as a pirate for some reason, we have my old friend V. McCrinnen, that I've known for nearly 40 years. And there's Ian Scribbs, who I've only known a couple of years, but is such a important part of our collective existence. I can't imagine life without him. And every episode we bring you a selection of delicious guests. And this week's delicious guest is another old friend of mine, somebody I've known for the last 30 years. I shared a house with for a considerable amount of those years, and who has been my partner in crime and creative endeavors for most of that time. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Richard Freeman. Woo, 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 woo. So, hello, nurse. Well, I haven't been a nurse for about 35 years, but I suppose it might fit. So, Richard, what have you been doing? What's your latest adventures?
Well, I've been lecturing up and down the country and doing a little bit of television. I was lecturing for LAPIS, the Lancashire Anomalous Phenomena Investigation Society, and then I was lecturing for the Folk Preservation Society. What else? After that, I was filming. I did some filming for a series called The Real X-Files. A day's filming on that.
Hi, Chris. Nice to see you. Are you back in Australia yet, or are you still in Eastern Europe doing arcane things? Right. Let's wait and see what Chris says. Chris is one of the regulars on CFZ TV, and it's great that he's come over and joined us here with our adventures on the Spooky Channel. So, Rich, what was your most recent expedition?
That was last year. That was to Tajikistan. It was the third expedition I've done to Tajikistan looking for the Caspian tiger.
Did you see what Chris has done? Well, you didn't, because Richard's Adventures in Cryptozoology book series was what got my father on board with my research.
Right?
That's really good.
Cool.
And Chris is back in Australia, so we're going to.
In the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's got certainly the best place for cryptozoology in the world.
Australia and
It's. Oh, I misread it. I thought it said it's Sam here. He said it's 5 a.m. here. I stayed up for this. I thought it said it's Sam here, if you see what I mean. But well done, Chris. It's great to have you. It's great to have you here, and it's always fun to have people that you know and care about come and join in the conversation. So, sorry, Richard, you were in Tajikistan.
yes, Tajikistan in along the right valley, searching for the Caspian tiger.
And how did you get on? Because it's your third trip there, I
The
think,
third
wasn't
trip.
it?
Well, this time we decided to go to the very end of the valley where the peters out into the mountains. But unfortunately, up there's not so much tree cover and not so much prey. So and it's so remote, you can't go from village to village interviewing people like we did before. So we didn't get an awful lot of information on the last year. But what did happen on the way back down through the valley, we stopped to give a lift to a shepherd, and he had actually seen the tiger whilst we were in the Womit Valley, but like 2 hours further down the valley. And he took us to where we saw it. He was camped, and all his dogs started to go bananas. And he went out with a found them all clustered around a tree, barking at something at a tree. So he called the dogs off and shone his torch up into the tree, and there was a Caspian tiger in the tree. And it ran down and then ran off into the wilderness. But the route we took back down, there were lots of deep, remote, heavily forested valleys. I wouldn't be surprised if no one has ever set foot in them.
And Simon's here from Denmark. Hi, Simon.
Hi, Simon.
Yes, Simon.
Hi, Simon. Richard, just for the viewers, can you just give us a brief background as to what the Caspian tiger is in terms of a cryptid and how it fits in?
The Caspian tiger is a subspecies of tiger, most closely related to the Siberian tiger. We associate tigers with jungles and warm places, but they actually evolved in the cold north, and they, as a species, migrated down and developed into subspecies as they went, and got as far south as Sumatra. So that the Sumatran, Indo-Chinese, Bengal tigers, they're all descendants of these tigers from the north. And the Caspian tiger was one that inhabited Central Asia, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, the surrounding countries. And it was supposed to have been, depending on who you talk, hunted into extinction between 1960 and 1970. But we've been over there 3 times now, and we've spoken to so many witnesses. We've spoken to farmers that have seen it take their livestock. We've spoken to hunters that have met it in the jungle, in the mountains. We spoke to a park ranger. The first time we were there, we spoke to a park ranger who had seen it from a distance of only 100 feet, exactly a month to the day that we got there. And we talked to some imams from a mosque, and they said that everybody knows that the tiger is still there. If you talk to people, they've either seen it or they know people that's seen it. One of our guides we had has seen it twice, including seeing a female with cubs. And we talked to another guy who saw a female with cubs as well. So it seems like the Caspian tiger isn't extinct at all, but it's still there in the remote areas of Tajikistan.
I'm right in saying, I think, Richard, that it was the most westerly subspecies,
Yes, yeah,
and it even lived in Europe at one time.
yeah. It certainly went into Turkey, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if it didn't stray into Eastern Europe at one point.
I believe it lived in the Caucasus
Yeah, yeah, it was in the Caucasus at one point.
because up as far north as Georgia, I think,
Mm.
which means it is very Eastern Europe. It's still Europe, and you never think of there being a European tiger.
How long were you there for then on your expedition last year?
A fortnight, just a
Hmm.
fortnight. Yeah, that's the thing with expeditions. You're stymied really with funding for how long you
Mm.
can go. In the ideal world, you would go for several months on end if you had the funding. I mean, that's how things are found. When they first went out to film the snow leopard in the Himalayas, and that's an animal we knew existed, it took them something like 6 or 7 years before they actually caught it on film. And we knew it was there.
Mm.
So if you think about something like the Yeti, which is a primate, a higher primate, it's intelligent, it doesn't want to be found. There's no wonder no one's caught it on film.
Also, like the blue bear, which also is, they know it's there, but very rarely seen.
Mm.
Yeah.
Simon's just written, I remember watching a past CSZ documentary where Richard also interviewed Tajiks about both surviving Caspian tigers and the ghoul.
Yeah, the ghoul is an interesting thing. It's a supposed relic hominin. I thought it would be the same as the Russian Almasty. I've gone on the track of the Almasty twice, but this thing seems different. It seems smaller, more primitive, and everybody you talk to, the first thing they'll tell you when they've seen one is it's got weird hands, and that the thumb is much further back on the hand than a human thumb is. So the palm area is longer, more like the hand of a chimpanzee, and they're quite aggressive. We met a number of people that had been attacked by them.
And the Almasty, I remember you saying, they're quite often quite benign, aren't they?
Well, the Almasty very rarely attacks people. We heard it. One story of one of them hurling a rock. It took two men to move this rock. This thing hurled it at a guy, but only after the farmer had thrown a stone at it. We heard another story about one that entered a remote farmhouse and killed a guard dog with a club, and then made off with a big round of Bulgarian cheese. But they're supposed to hang around a lot of the more remote human habitations looking for food. We met another guy and his wife who had given bread to a young one, a young Almasty, and his wife had seen one way back just after World War II. And the one he had seen and put out bread for had just been a few years before.
And we've been on 2 expeditions to see the Almasty, to search for the Almasty, you say?
Yeah, both in the Caucasus Mountains in Russia. Unfortunately, that won't be happening again anytime soon. I really wanted to do the lakes of Siberia, where there's been sightings and sonar readings of large animals in these lakes. And there's a tradition of them going back, well over a century. And they're supposed to have flipped over rafts of native people and grabbed them and eaten them. Particularly Lake Chany in Siberia, where I think it's 19 people supposedly have been killed by this thing in the lake, which witnesses say is serpentine and about 30 feet long. And I've listened to interviews with people, and there was one woman whose son was an ex-soldier, and he was fishing on the lake. It's 50 miles long by 50 miles wide, but it's not very deep. And she said she was watching from shore when this thing appeared, rammed his boat, knocked him into the water, grabbed him, and he was never seen again. Then there was another case where there was an interview with this guy who was fishing with his friend on a boat, and the creature appeared, rammed the boat, grabbed the guy, dragged him away, got to shore. He never saw his friend again. They've asked for a official
I don't know where Randy kept all that.
getting drunk and drowning, but they found bits of these people on the shore that have been chewed by something. So if you ask me, it sounds like a bloody great eel.
Yes.
But it would be a bloody great eel.
But nobody has ever made a documentary about Lake Channy or gone there for a proper investigation. It's not going to happen now until Putin and his ilk are long gone.
Back to your Almas. What did you discover when you were there? What did you have any success?
Well, there was one old abandoned farmhouse that was checked out. It was a few miles outside of Neutrino, the town of Neutrino, and it consisted of 3 rooms and sort of L-shaped veranda running around it. And some of the people we went with had seen Almasties before. There was a Ukrainian biologist called Gregory Panchenko who had seen one quite close up one night in a barn. Not this place we were staking out, but he took us to the area. The barn had been ripped down now, but back in the 1990s, he'd seen one whilst he was hiding under some straw in a barn, and this thing was messing about with the mane of an elderly mare that was stabled there, and it seemed to be entertaining itself by plaiting the hair of this mare. And they'd left out some food, and it had eaten the food. And then he said when it had sufficiently amused itself, it jumped up into the rafters and ran out through a window, not a glass window, one with wooden doors in it. And the other guy was an archaeologist called Anatoly Seredenko, and he'd seen one in the vicinity of this old farmhouse that we were staking out, and he described it as having grey fur and being about 7 feet tall, and it was walking through long grass and vegetation when he saw it. And as I say, this farmhouse had been abandoned since 1973, I think.
Yeah.
But sometimes shepherds go there, and there was a story about 8 years before we were there. There were some shepherds on the veranda one evening, and then the door at the end of the veranda opened, and there was a 7-foot almasty there. And according to the story, it walked calmly along the veranda, picked up a guy and just moved him out of the way, got to the end of the veranda and jumped off the end of the veranda and disappeared into the forest.
Right.
So we went there and staked it out with fruit and meat and stuff and camera traps. And these things are supposed to make a twittering sound, sounding a lot like birds. And Gregory Panchenko said the one that he saw was making this odd twittering sound and smacking its lips. And the woman at the farmhouse that had seen it after World War II, she said the one that she saw was making this twittering sound. Anyway, about 10 o'clock at night, we were staking out this old farm, and I heard this twittering noise like a bird, and one of the camera traps went off, and I thought, bloody hell, is this what I think it is? And then we waited and waited and waited, and nothing more happened. And it got to about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we went back into the farmhouse to warm ourselves up around this old range. And one of my mates, Dave Archer, fell asleep on a manky old mattress. And myself and this guy called Adam Davis were sitting warming ourselves by this range. And there was a door to the room we were in that faced out onto the veranda, and the door was about 7 foot, and it was slightly ajar, and there was moonlight and starlight coming in because it was a fairly clear night. And we heard this deep guttural vocalization that sort of like bum 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 bum, but really deep and throaty. It sounded like whatever made it had a barrel chest. And I said to Adam, "Did you hear that?" And he said, "Yeah." Then about 25 seconds later, there was something that walked along the veranda, and it was up on 2 feet. You could hear its footsteps. And as it passed the door, it blocked out the starlight and the moonlight to a height of at least 7 foot as it went past the door. So I said to Adam, "It's out there on the veranda." So we grabbed our cameras, went running out, but whatever it was had vanished into the night. And we did a circuit around, but we couldn't find anything. In the morning, we checked the camera traps, but all we got was vegetation moving about. So, was I 12 foot away from an almasty? I don't know. But
Mm.
it wasn't a bear, because a bear wouldn't be walking along on its hind legs, and it would have made a lot more noise. Now, I've seen this story retold on a German website where it's been exaggerated beyond recognition, where it was me on my own, and there was a 10'8" man outside of the farmhouse prowling around, and I was cowering inside in terror. Actually, what happened is we went running straight out with our cameras to try and photograph it, whatever it was. But it was gone.
Hi Chantal, lovely to see you. Vivian should be joining us at about 8:30. And as it's 21 minutes past 8 now, you've only got another 9 minutes before the lovely Vivian comes back. Richard, we've got a question from Chris in Australia. Going back to the Siberian lake monsters, what is the source of the 19 kills that you mentioned?
This is cats. I don't even like cats. I'm a dog person. Cats are so bloody irritating. It was the Russian news agencies had said that there were 19 people killed over a period of something like 14 years. But I've actually seen interviews with 2 witnesses to these events happening.
And Chris goes on to say, if this is accurate, that's one of the highest death tolls involved in any cryptozoological case.
Yeah, apart from the beast of Jardavin, which killed 118 people and was probably a maneless male lion that escaped from a private menagerie, one of the aristocracy in pre-revolutionary France. But yeah, in recent times, this is one of the highest kill counts. I actually wrote an article and I do a talk as well called Death by Cryptid about the very rare cases where cryptids have been alleged to kill people.
That's one of your great lifetime ambitions, isn't it? To be killed and eaten by a mystery animal.
Where can we find this article, Richard? Which magazine or publication is it in?
Sorry?
Which magazine, which publication is the Death by Cryptid for those who want to have a read?
It was in a now defunct magazine called Paranormal Magazine.
I remember that magazine.
Death by Cryptid, and they changed the title to What's Eating You, which is a really stupid title. My recent book on man-eating animals, I wanted to call it Beasts That Prey on Man. And
that's the high strangeness, isn't it? The high strangeness.
No. This is the one on man-eating animals. This is purely zoological, and it's on man-eating animals. I wanted to call it Beasts That Prey on Man, and the publishing company insisted in calling it Creatures That Eat People, which is the most retarded title I've ever heard for anything.
Whilst we're on the subject of cryptids killing people, David, you were telling me about a valley in Canada. Oh, hang on a second. Hang on.
Muted.
You are unmuted now.
Okay.
Hurrah.
I think, yeah, the Nahanni Valley and
Yeah,
the Fraser Valley.
Cool.
Pardon me?
Tell us about the Nahanni Valley.
Well, the Nahanni Valley is where that's where the Headless Valley comes from. It's actually Canyon too, but they call it the Headless Valley. It was gold prospectors, and when they went back to find them, they found them with their heads removed. I think there was 4 in that area over a course of about 30 years. There, of course, you get everything from the Wahila to, the Nahan people, which were, in my personal opinion, I think it was a remnant population, because it was all quite some time a remnant population Neanderthal, or some other subhuman species that just took heads as trophies, because it didn't make a whole lot of sense. The bodies were there, and just the heads were gone. The Fraser Valley has reports of Bigfoot, all kinds of stuff. That's actually where we need to go. It's a 23-hour drive for me from here, but it's something I'd like to do someday, is go spend a month and walk from Hope up to the top, hike it up. So, but yeah, you can look up Fraser Valley or Nahanni Valley, which is a UNESCO site. Really super hard to get into and super expensive to hire guides and everything for. Because remember, I wanted to go to the Nahanni originally, and for 10 of us to go, including you and Richard, it was, well, I think we were at what, $225,000,
Wow.
and they were telling us where we could go. We were saying where we wanted to go. I think
You
that
had some- sorry to interrupt, but Richard was telling me something almost identical to that earlier, because you wanted to go to the southernmost island in Japan, didn't you, Rich?
Yeah, Iriomote Island. It's on the the southernmost of an archipelago off the south coast of Japan. And
For the wolf.
no, for the Iriomote mystery cat. In 1960,
Oh, okay.
they found a new species of wildcat on this island of Iriomote, and also a miniature wild pig. But the native people there say that there's a second, bigger cat that sounds very much like a subspecies of clouded leopard.
Mm.
But they say it's much bigger than the Iriomote cat, and nobody has really investigated it properly. We wanted to go up, put out camera traps with catnip and meat as bait, but they were asking £7,000 each. That's without flights to go and do this. And then when we wanted to go, the more experienced guides weren't around. There were only amateur guides, and there's a lot of the island you're not allowed to go to. There are two tracks you can go to by rivers there. So we thought, no, it's just too expensive. And if the proper guides aren't there, it's not worth it. So we're going to have to do it another time.
Good evening, Ned. Good evening, Nico. Lovely to have you aboard. Richard, so what is your next one you're going to go and do?
We're planning at the minute early stages of planning to go to Flores to look for surviving Homo floresiensis. There's a anthropologist called Gregory Forth who wrote a very good book called Between Ape and Human, about his anthropological work on the island of Flores, and how he's heard from the people in the east of the island that these things are still around. They call them Liaho, and he spoke to a number of witnesses there. So we were hoping to get out there. We're just pricing it up at the minute. So if we can't go through a specialist travel agency, we'll probably just do it off our own bat.
Richard, because just in case for people listening who don't know, can you explain the story of Homo floresiensis and its implications?
Homo floresiensis was a species of hominin discovered in 2005 from caves on the West Wall. And it was very small, a little over a metre tall. And at first, when they excavated these things, the remains were dated to around 50,000 years old, which is, in evolutionary terms, yesterday. When they first found them, they thought that they were an example of island dwarfism. That's where a species on an island gets smaller because there's less resources for it to use. So large animals get small, big animals tend to get big. That's the rule of island ecology. And it was thought that this was a dwarf island form of Homo erectus, but some Australian paleontologists had a closer look, and looking at the skull and the wrist bones, it was something much more primitive. And it turns out that Homo floresiensis is a sister group to Homo habilis. And a Homo habilis is known from fossils from East Africa, that are nearly 2 million years old, and nobody had any inkling that it had a lineage outside of Africa. So something very closely related to Homo habilis migrated out of Africa and spread halfway around the world to eastern Indonesia. And we know it was there as recently as 50,000 years ago. It could still be there. So that begs the question that this thing, nearly 2 million years out of time and half a world away from where it should be, if that's out there, what else is out there?
And to interrupt, Vivian, spooky Vivian, is in the house. Hiya, baby.
Hello. Hi, Richard. Hi, David. Hi, Ian. Hi, bro.
Hello.
It's my
Hi,
bro
Ian.
down there, V.
Over there.
Yeah, he's going to be all the way through the month of October. Vivian's not going to be here, and she will be replaced by Spooky V. And me and Spooky V are going to be running the Ordinary Wednesday night shows for a whole month. So be prepared for even stranger shit than usual. How was Andy's birthday party?
Oh, we had the family round, and we just had a dinner. We just had some Thai green curry, homemade. It was quite nice. He's 2 birthdays in 1 week is just getting too much. Jonathan's earlier on, and Andy's this week. So happy birthday, John.
Thank you, my dear. You're very sweet
Yes.
to me. And look what I'm wearing. My birthday Spring Heel Jack t-shirt.
Jack.
that Dee gave
cool.
me.
Hurrah.
I promised you I would wear it.
Yep.
It's great to see Richard again. Where have you been, Richard? We've missed you.
Oh, I've been fine, thanks. Yeah, lecturing here and there, doing a bit of telly.
Flanneling ponies.
Flannelled ponies.
Flanneling ponies, yeah.
Richard
What
is
finds
that?
It's a
the
hobby.
pony funny. And so we're just trying to bring the word pony in to make him giggle like a little girl.
Pony and flannel are words that I find unaccountably funny. I find the word peep fairly funny as well.
So have
Do
you been
you use a
thinking-
flannel? But you use a flannel when you have a strip wash, though, don't you?
Yes.
What's
Do you
funny about
giggle
that?
when you're doing it?
No, it's not the actual physical flannel that makes me laugh. No more than a physical pony makes me laugh. It's the word and how it sounds.
What, flannel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't ask me
I can
why.
think of a funnier word that will make you laugh.
Handbag.
No,
Mm.
flange.
Yeah, it's a great word.
Flange.
But that's one that John uses sometimes. It makes me laugh my tits off.
Anyway, stop going on about McCrinnan's tits and back
Yes.
to the
Richard,
proper
yes.
subject. Richard, carry on with Homo floresiensis. At one time, wasn't it thought that they were actually a Australopithecine, which were even more primitive?
Yes, some people thought that, but it's looking like its closest relative was Homo habilis, which is utterly amazing. After that was found, a very similar species was found on in the Philippines on Luzon, Homo luzonensis, and that's known from teeth and jaw bones, I think. But Homo floresiensis, they got the skull and the skeleton, and they were so well preserved. They weren't actual fossils. They weren't stone. They were still organic.
Well, that dates them to only 10, 20,000 years old.
50,000 years.
As old? Can they actually be as old as 50,000 years and still be organic?
Yeah, there is organic material. It's actually marrow bone from inside the bone of a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, and they've got one type of DNA from it, but not stuff that you need to clone things. But believe it or not, some DNA has actually lasted.
Yes, and absolutely remarkably. But anyway, Richard, go back to.
But when they found the remains, they said they had the consistency of wet tissue paper, so they had to excavate them very carefully and dry them out.
Wow.
And you wouldn't have thought something 50,000 years old would be as fragile as that.
I think it's the anaerobic conditions that they were preserved in, because they're in the strata of a cave.
So, what about the modern sightings?
They come from the opposite end of the island, the eastern end. On the western end, these things are in the folklore called Ibu Gogo, and the local people said they had a legend of them, and that they inhabited a cave, and they would come down and steal crops and stuff, and steal livestock to death with bamboo spears. And according to the legend, the people got annoyed with them, so they got drunk on palm wine. And when they went back to their cave, they blocked the cave up with palm fronds and smoked them to death.
Yeah, that old chestnut.
Which is the same story that Carol was telling us last month,
Yeah.
wasn't it, David?
Yeah.
It comes from America as well, doesn't it? Over the Sasquatch,
Yeah.
there's legends of the same thing happening.
On Sri Lanka as well, within Natoio, it's almost exactly the same story.
Oh.
That was the one that Carol was talking about. Was the
Yeah.
Is it Natoio or Nitaweo?
Nitawaya, I think.
Nitaweo. I've always called
But
it Nitaweo.
anyhow, on the eastern side of the island, the name for them is Leoha, and there are contemporary sightings that Gregory IV recorded.
And how recent are these sightings?
Within the last 20 years.
Bloody hell! Well, it's worth going to Flores if only to see wild Komodo dragons, because they live there, don't they?
Yeah, it's one of the few islands they live on. Komodo, Rinchar, and Flores. So I think the only ones they're found on there.
Yeah, Flores and Komodo, then two I remember. And I always remember Flores for the wrong Flores. Because when I was at school, at Bideford Grammar School in the 1970s, one of the people who'd actually founded it was Sir Richard Grenville back in Elizabethan days. And there was a poem about the death of Sir Richard Grenville, which goes at Flores in the Azores, Sir Richard Grenville lay. And I always think of Flores in the Azores, even though we're talking about Flores in Indonesia on the opposite side of the world. So what
Would it be pronounced Azores?
Well, not if you're trying to rhyme it with Flores.
That's a cheat. That doesn't rhyme. That's something wrong to make it rhyme.
Yeah, but you don't know that it didn't rhyme like that. That wasn't the way. You don't know that wasn't the way of describing it back in Grenville's day. That was, 500 years ago.
That's true. Pronunciations do change a lot.
They do. Vu Macronion.
Yeah. Well, it used to be Macrinine.
Now you're just saying that. You're just saying that to try and impress the lads.
But it was Viking. See, shipwrecked Vikings on Skye.
You're just trying to impress Chantal with that.
I always think the opening lines of War Pigs is a bit of a cheat as well, because they go, see the generals in their masses, just like witches at black masses. They use the words masses twice.
Yes, and witches don't do black masses.
No, we don't. But Ozzy wouldn't know that, would he? He was brought up a Christian boy.
I've got a quick question.
He's the king of
Go-
darkness. Sorry.
You go ahead, Viv.
I said he
King
was
of
the king of darkness. He knew everything.
No, he wasn't. He was a brummy alcoholic.
The closest he came to black magic was eating the chocolate.
He said that. That was one of his
Yeah,
lines.
yeah.
Well, the lady did love milk tray.
Okay.
Sorry, I interrupted
okay.
Ian. Come on, Ian.
No, I just got a quick question
Yeah.
for Richard, though. with your latest book, the high strangeness, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got a. I haven't read it, but I did have a look at the contents, and you said you cover the what was it? The Irish water rhino, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Is that the Loch Dub monster by any chance?
The one that was seen by a school teacher who had the
Yeah.
name of Alphonsus Mullany,
Yeah.
who was also called Alphonsus Mullany. Yes.
That is that, because I've always been, I don't know, that's always captured me, that case, but there's very little information out there on it, isn't there? So,
Well, I've heard, I haven't got the details, but
mm,
that thing was supposed to have been seen by other people prior
mm,
to that. But I never
yeah.
got to get the details. But
So
I'm
basically,
working on a sequel to that book because I've found out other stuff since, and there's stuff that I didn't have room to
uh,
put in it, and
about
It
that
was
case,
called carry on the higher strangeness.
yeah, carry on luggage, John.
yeah. And if you were going to make up a story about a lake
Mm,
monster, why would you make
yeah.
it look like a
For
rhinoceros?
for those that don't know, there was a small lake in Ireland, wasn't it? And basically a water creature came out of that was sighted, which looked kind of like a hippo with a horn coming out of his nose. The most strange thing.
Yeah, and I think there was this school teacher. He was angling there with
Mm,
his son, and this thing came out of the water and charged at him.
yeah, they they were fishing, weren't they? And then they did have a big bite, and they couldn't reel it in. And then later on, I think they had to cut the line or something. And then later on, this thing came out of the water. It's an amazing
So
case.
the Asian rhinos, particularly the Indian rhino and the Javan rhino, do spend a lot of time in water,
Mm,
unlike the African rhinos. They wallow in water a lot, and in prehistoric times there were a group of rhinos whose lifestyle were more like hippos. They lived
yeah,
almost exclusively in water. But I'm not suggesting one of these is living in a little lake in Ireland.
a bog, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it'd be good. I did Google. I did do a bit of research myself, and that guy, someone of the same name, I think died quite recently, and I think they were a teacher. So maybe it's the same person, but I don't know. As I said, I don't know. I've not got a lot of information about the case. But yeah, that one has always just taken my interest for some reason.
Tell us about your higher strangeness book, Richard, 'cause I've found it massively entertaining.
Well, it's a big sort of diversion for me because I generally write about straight cryptozoology, that is purely mystery animals, be they things unknown to science or things we think are extinct that are probably still around, like the Tasmanian wolf, or animals that have grown really big, bigger than the textbooks say they should, like giant crocodiles, giant anacondas, giant elephants, and so on. That's what I study, search for, and write about. But occasionally you'll get a really interesting, weird case, a high strangeness case. And I wrote a couple of odd ghost stories up for 14 times just because they were really weird. And I was approached by an American publisher. Said, these are great. I want a whole book full of them. I want a whole book about these high strangeness cases. And I thought, oh yeah, that would be great fun to do. So it was really enjoyable to research. I did look at some really obscure publications and books and stuff, and rummage through old, long out of print magazines to get the strangest cases. And I wrote chapters on monsters, ghosts, UFOs, and then sort of the miscellaneous stuff that doesn't really fit into any category. And then tried to make sense of it all, which is a bit like trying to herd cats, and made some guesses about what's going on. But when I submitted the book, the guy didn't want it because he wanted a book where I would do one case per chapter. So I looked at each chapter would be a different case. But I'd done hundreds of cases per chapter, and I didn't want to change it because you'd have had a lot less information in it. So like you'd have had a chapter on the mince pie Martians maybe, and a chapter on the big gay rapist Hippo Man, and a chapter.
Okay, Richard, tell us about the big great gay rapist Hippo Man.
This is
Hang on, Chantal is South African and she's in South Africa now. She's watching the show tonight and she might well know stuff about Tokelau.
This is from a book, and without going back and looking at my notes, I can't tell you who wrote it or the name of the book, but it was a book about legal cases in South Africa. And there was a case of murder where a Sangoma, a witch doctor, had been beaten to death with his own mallet that he used for crushing up herbs and spices. And the police contacted his son, and his son was in a neighbouring country. I think it might have been Botswana. And he said, "Oh yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. I've just gone to tell some of my relatives that I've killed my father, and I'll come back and turn myself into the police." And he did. And his story was that he would repeatedly wake up at night, unable to move, and find himself being bummed by an old man with the head of a hippopotamus. And he said, after this had happened for a while, he managed to sort of mentally free himself up enough to grab a hold of this mallet and batter this old man with the head of a hippopotamus that was bumming him around the head. And when he died, when he was dead, he saw it was the corpse of his father. So his story was that his father was using black magic to transform himself into a hippo-headed man, and then freeze his own son and bum him for whatever reason. But he was acquitted because the jury apparently thought that they wouldn't like to get bummed off a big gay rapist hippo man either.
That's
He's
crazy.
not a hippo.
So anyway, but I didn't want to do one story, one chapter, because it would mean I'd only able to do like a dozen or so of these stories, and I've got loads of them. So I went to CFZ Press with it instead, and it's 400 pages of really weird stuff, including another case from South Africa that happened in the 1890s at the house of the ranch of a white landowner. His niece was being haunted by some sort of poltergeist-like entity that kept tying her hair to the old-fashioned brass bedstead they had. And other things were happening, like furniture moving around and things. And so this guy got in all these blokes to watch over his niece by candlelight while she slept, which sounds really dodgy in this day and age. But she kept shouting out that something was pulling her hair. I saw that her hair had been braided into pigtails, and something was invisibly undoing them and trying to tie them around the bedstead, according to the witnesses. And then the ghost manifested, and it was a giant floating glowing crab. So if you're going to make up a story about a ghost, where in that equation do you think, oh, I know, it won't be a monk or a white lady or a black dog, we'll have a giant crab that floats around bumping into things
and tying up teenage girls' hair.
Yeah. There's another one that involves one of my heroes, the late great John Pertwee, the greatest Doctor Who of them all. And as a boy, he used to go and stay with a school friend of his whose well-to-do family owned an Elizabethan mansion, and it was either in Surrey or Sussex. There's two different books that recount the story, and one says Sussex and one says Surrey. I've tried to track this house down, and he gives a description of it, and it's got a minstrel's gallery and stuff. And the only house I think like it that I can track down was nowhere near old enough to be the house in question. But anyway, he says that he'd stopped with this boy and his mother and father, and one time he went there, they had other guests. So he had to sleep in a section of the house they didn't usually use. And he overheard the father say to the mother, "Are you sure it's all right putting the boy in that room? You know what it's like in there." And she says, "Oh, he's a heavy sleeper. He won't be disturbed." And he was wondering, what on earth are they on about? And he said he woke up in the middle of the night and there was this terrible smell that he likened to a decomposing sheep's carcass. And it was so terrible that he vomited over his sheets. So he's mortified about this. So he washed the sheets in the middle of the night and dried them over a boiler. And in the morning, when they asked him how he slept, he said, "Oh, yeah, I slept fine." And the mother said to the father, "Yeah, I told you he'd be all right." So he's still thinking, what on earth are they talking about? Anyway, the following night, he woke up in the same room and there was this same foul smell, but he saw this thing that he described as looking like a luminous tree trunk that was glowing green. He said it stunk foul and bubbles were rising up from the side of it out of the bark, but instead of bursting, the bubbles seemed to fade away. And it was crawling on its roots very slowly towards him, and he completely freaked out and ran out of the room screaming. And then when his friend's parents woke up, the father berated the mother, saying, "I told you we should never have put him in that room." And apparently after that they locked that section of the house off and nobody ever used it again.
Bloody hell.
Strange.
It is a fantastic book, boys and girls.
I
And
need the book.
I have put a link to where you can buy all Richard's books in the show notes.
But we have cases of yowies from Australia and Bigfoot, like haunting houses like ghosts, appearing in the middle of poltergeist outbreaks. So one phenomenon is bleeding into another. Bigfoot-like creatures seen with UFOs. All kinds of weird, deeply weird stories. Modern-day sightings of literal dragons, dragon worship cults around the world. All sorts of.
And isn't Jeff in it as well?
Oh, Jeff the Talking Mongoose is in it. Of course, Jeff. He's the star of the show. I mean, I was doing a Ouija session once. I mean, I've been over to the Isle of Man.
You did cover it on CFZ, didn't you? I think the Ouija session. Tell us about the trip and everything. That was it was brilliant.
Yeah, and we're just getting gibberish out of this Ouija board, which is what happens most of the time when you use it. And then afterwards, we all went off to bed, and I was asleep in bed, and I was sharing my room with my mate Jackie. And her bed's about 10 foot away from mine at a different angle. And she was awake while I was asleep. And she said she heard something like a small animal jumping around on the bed. And even in my sleep, I was like moving my arms and legs out of its way as it's circling around the bed, jumping. And she couldn't see anything, but she could hear this thing pounding on the bed. And she said it lasted for about 20 minutes. Now, interestingly, I'm involved with a museum in Wales called Rowton's Museum of Paranormal. And one of the times I was there, they took me up to Laura and Eric, who run it. They have a Victorian seance parlour that's all decked out to look like an actual Victorian seance parlour. And we had a session there, but with the planchette that has a little pencil in it. And so you put it on paper and it writes stuff out. And it kept pointing towards me. And they said, "Something's interested in you." And usually I just get gibberish from these things. I think mostly it's like subconscious. Your subconscious going through. Pointing at me, and then it spelled out the word GEF. They'd never heard of Jeff before. So I had to explain what Jeff was. And then it drew a crude outline of a mongoose. And Laura said, "How many legs do you have?" And it said 4. And she said, "Do you know where it is, where you are?" And it wrote out Wales. So there you go.
Jeff has moved. He lives in Wales now.
He's on holiday.
Jeff's not the only talking animal And there's
A quick
there's
one, staying on Jeff though a minute, Richard. You went to Dawlish Chasm, didn't you, as well, I
Yeah.
believe?
yeah, I've been there 4
Tell us
times.
of that journey, the actual, because it's a pain in the arse to get to, isn't it? You've got to do a bit of...
Not as bad as you think. It's
Mm.
we stayed in a place called Erie Cushlin, which is the most remote house on the island. So if you're coming from somewhere else, it's quite a drive. But from Erie Cushlin, it's not too bad. It's about 3/4 of an hour walk. But when you get there, there's nothing left of Dawlish Cashen.
No.
Not
Few
even.
bricks.
I got a half brick as a souvenir. But there's Mrs. Irving's gooseberry bushes.
Yeah.
So we had a good route round Maggie's old bush, and
70s bush. Yeah.
we took some. My friend Janet from Lapis took some cuttings, and they're in her garden now, and they're doing quite well. So she's got just talking mongoose gooseberry bushes. So hopefully we'll be able to eat the gooseberries.
So you went to Viri Irving's house, and someone didn't come up to you and tell you to clear off.
No, that wasn't me.
No. All right.
Okay, Richard, I think because we have some people here who are watching in South Africa, some in Australia, and I believe there's at least one person from America here, and they may not know the story of Jeff the
Talking
Talking Mongoose.
mongoose. Well, in the 1930s, there was this family from Liverpool called the Irvings who moved to the Isle of Man, which is this wonderful little island halfway between Ireland and England. And it's sort of like a little sliver of Middle Earth that has sort of poked through into archaeology. And they were staying at this remote house called Dawlish Cashen, and they started experiencing what sounded like a poltergeist scratching in the walls and things being moved around and odd noises and knockings. And then they started to hear words. And the words became sentences. And it was almost as if this thing was
Thank you.
Do you know slamming the door?
talk.
It wasn't.
And eventually it said it was a mongoose. And it had been born in the 1850s in India. And it called itself Jeff. And for the better part of a decade, this little creature haunted this family. And lots of parapsychologists like Rollo Ahmed and what's his name?
Price.
Yeah, Harry Price and Nandor Fodor went over to investigate it. Nandor Fodor came to the conclusion it was part of Jim Irving, the father, Jim Irving's personality that actually possessed a real mongoose, because mongooses were let loose by one of the farmers in the area to deal with rats. But it wasn't only them that saw it. A guy called Will Cubbin saw Jeff bounding through the fields around the house, and people tried to explain it away as Vori, the daughter, doing ventriloquism. But people heard Jeff speaking when they could see Vori through the window in fields half a mile away, or she was not out of the house altogether in town. And this continued until the death of Jim Irving in the late 40s, and then the family moved away. But the house had a reputation
You are no sugar.
right up to the time that it was ripped down in 1971.
What happened to Jeff? Did he just disappear, or after the family moved away?
Probably a tulpa, a thought form, subconsciously created by the family, and he's become part of the zeitgeist of the Isle of Man now. I think he's still there as a spirit. It's saying the power is getting low on this. I've got 10% battery remaining.
Okay, what we have to do.
Plug him in.
Though one of the latter owners of the house did shoot a mongoose type creature.
That was a polecat.
Polecat, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the photograph, and it's not a mongoose. It's
Yeah.
definitely a polecat.
Byrie saw the photograph as well, and she said it definitely wasn't Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vori herself said that's not Jeff. Looks nothing like it. Jeff
Yeah.
is yellow coloured with this weird bushy tail.
Richard, can you go and sit on the other sofa, and I'll pass you the lead to go.
Ah,
Pardon?
While you're there, can you
Oh, I've got it. Now, where does this plug in?
into the side? I've got it's plugged into the wall here.
No, in the...
Oh bollocks! It's on the side. Hang on, everybody.
Yeah,
Technical issues.
just bear with us.
absolutely despise them.
That's
Do you know any pirate songs, V?
No, I was doing the tune from that intermission.
I'll put it in.
Is it charging?
I don't know. It's not saying anything.
Top right hand corner is a green.
Yes, it is.
Okay, we're back, boys and girls.
Anyhow,
Hurrah!
Hurrah!
Okay.
another talking animal I look at as a case from Liverpool in 1960, and there were two young boys playing in this wood in Liverpool in 1960, and they said that they'd built a fire, and they said that this cat appeared, and it looked like a tabby cat, but it was 4 times as large as a cat should be, and it had human eyes, and it introduced itself, it talked, and it said its name was Samael. And they went and told their parents, and their parents didn't believe them. Of course they bloody didn't believe them. The talking cat with human eyes.
And the name of an old Jewish. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Anyhow, John nearly spoiled it then. Anyhow, they go back to the woods the next day, and the cat said, "Don't come into these woods because there's a paedophile here, and he'll want to kill you." So they went and told their parents again. The parents didn't believe them, but then they found out that this child molester had been released from a mental hospital, and he'd made a camp in these very woods that the cat was warning the kids about. Now, the name it said was Samael. Samael is a Hebrew demon. He's called the venom of God, and he takes the form of a giant snake with a lion's head. And despite being a demon, he's used by God to punish the wicked. So 2 Scouse kids, aged about 9 or 10 in 1960, are not going to know the name of an obscure...
No, I think it's highly unlikely.
Oh, by the way, Chantal, Jeff is spelt G-E-F.
On this occasion, this Jeff is spelled G-E-L.
Yes,
And
yes. 'cause-
Chantal, if you've not heard of the case, just Google it and you'll find out everything.
Now, going over to you, Mr. Squibbs, you can actually carry on the story of Rory Irving, can't you?
Well, I almost got my head kicked in, but yes, I can. So,
Oh, crikey.
and if you watched the Christmas episode, wasn't it, of last year, I cover my investigation. So yeah, I was just having a look at it online, see what I could find out online. And I came across her birth certificate. Oh no, sorry, her death certificate, and on there was her place, her last residence, so which was in Gloucester. Yeah, so I did a special edition for us. Took my camera up there and found the house where Rory Irving spent her last days in where was it? It was it was north of Gloucester. So, but I was filming the house and doing a bit of commentary, and some guy came out all angry and saying, "No, you can't film here," and all this stuff. And I did say to him, I tried to calm him down and say, "Well, I'm just doing a piece, some journalism. Do you actually know anything about the person who used to live here?" And he wasn't the least bit interested, and basically told me to go away. So that's what happened. But yeah, watch the Christmas episode, and yeah, it's on there, my film, and the angry guy, and yeah, it's pretty good, eh? And
I'm very proud of Ian because he likes filming people's houses and getting threatened and told to go away.
I found Tim Dinsdale's house, and so I filmed that for us, didn't I? Because I live near. I live in Reading, and that's where Tim Dinsdale lived, and I actually found out where his house was, where he used to live. So I went there and did a bit of filming just from outside and a bit of commentary. Then this woman came out, and she was quite polite to me and all that, but she did say, "What are you doing? Filming my house?" And I told her, and she said that she was his daughter. So it was, yeah, and she was quite pleasant as well. And I got, we had a chat, and she said she'd come on CFZ. I said, "Can you come on just for for a chat?" But yeah, she said then she went back on her word and she never came on. But never mind. Yeah, so
But important thing, did it have good form?
what, the lady?
Yes.
Well, for her age, I suppose. So yeah, but she was getting on a bit. So
I like the way you described Tim Dinsdale as a boat filmer.
well, let's be honest. Do you think he filmed a monster or a boat? Looking at all the evidence, we went through this recently.
I don't think he was a deliberate liar.
No,
But I think he filmed a boat.
and also he filmed. The thing is, he actually did film a boat for comparison to show the difference, didn't he?
Mm.
Some of those shots, when you compare them, especially the wake, are almost identical. So maybe he shot himself in the foot there. But yeah, he believed he filmed the monster.
What
So
we really need is the Frank Searle movie.
well, yeah. So what I want to do next year, if you do the Weird Weekend, I want to do actually a speech on Frank Searle. If I could come and do that, that would be good.
Oh yeah,
Of course you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, get in touch with Glenn.
No, for our Weird Weekend.
Oh, our Weird Weekend. Yeah, sure. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I think who would you get to play him though in a film about his life?
Well,
I'll
it's hard.
play him. I could practice lobbing milk bottles.
I think Terry Thomas would be quite good, but he's dead, isn't he? So, someone like that. Someone a bit spivvy.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is getting silly again.
I know
Some
someone
real
that's a
brain.
bit spivvy. It's Lord, your friend Jonathan. Lord, what's his name? The poet.
Me.
Oh, he can act as well, can't he?
Yeah.
Lee Fallows. He's a very strange fellow. I hope you're watching, Lee. You're
He's great.
And even though you are a strange fellow.
He was in Shameless, but they cut his scene out, so he can act.
Richard,
Mhm.
I think the place you've been to most is Sumatra, isn't it? And you are planning at some point to go back to Sumatra, and we're doing a crowdfunding thingy to finance it. If you're going back to Sumatra next time, what are your plans? What do you want to do there?
Well, we get back in touch with. Well, I'm still in touch with him, but we get Dali again, our native guide. Find out where the most recent reports have been, and then concentrate on that area. Possibly get some camera traps with very powerful batteries and get them linked up to a satellite if we can, so we can download them from here and just leave them in the field.
That'd be good.
So they're there in the jungle for a year, 18 months, and they photograph everything that comes by.
I think it would be a better idea to get permission from people in villages to put them up in their allotments, because that's where they come out of the jungle and they steal their fruit,
yeah.
don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. The garden, they call it, this semi-cultivated area. And that's called a garden. The only trouble with that is that there's people nicking them.
No. Well,
Someone might come along and nick them, you never know. Because we've had them nicked before.
you could tell them that there's a curse on anyone who takes it and put a rubber skull on it or something.
And tell them if they take it, it will photograph their soul, and we'll be able to sell it on Facebook.
Yeah, sell it to a jinn.
The thing we look for in Sumatra if you're unfamiliar with it, is the orang pendek, which is an upright walking ape, 3 to 5 feet tall, very powerfully built, lives on the forest floor, and we've heard it calling. My colleague Dave Archer actually saw it squatting in a tree, and it climbed down from the tree and walked away on its hind legs. I found its footprints, its handprints. We found hair that was analysed by Lars Thomas from Copenhagen, who works with the University of Copenhagen. And he's an expert in mammal hair, and he looked at it, the structure of it, and he said he's related to but distinct from the Sumatran orangutan, and he's forced to conclude that there is a large unknown primate in Sumatra. Now, I used to be a zookeeper. I specialised in reptiles, but I worked with an awful lot of apes and monkeys as well. I've seen their tracks in all kinds of medium, and the track of the orang pendek is different to any of the known apes. It has a broader heel, it has 4 toes at the front and a offset semi-prehensile big toe, and the handprint is very different from an orangutan's handprint. It's got thicker fingers and a larger thumb, so that the handprint looks more like that of a small gorilla than an orangutan. Orangutans have tiny thumbs and great long fingers.
Richard, I've got a question about the orang pendek. Have any of the locals, before a sighting happens, have any of the locals recorded or said that they've seen any bright lights or strange lights in the sky just before seeing one? No.
There is absolutely no paranormal aspects to the orang pendek. It's just an animal. We think it's a ground-dwelling orangutan. Until recently, there were thought to be 2 species of orangutan, the Bornean orangutan and the Sumatran orangutan. But just recently, 2017, they identified a 3rd one in Sumatra called the Tapanuli orangutan that's genetically distinct from the other 2. So we think that this is the 4th species of orangutan, and it lives on the forest floor rather than being arboreal. And it walks upright like a man.
Why is it, Richard, that the orangutan, because only 30 years ago it was thought there was only 1 species of orangutan. And why is it that it's turned out that there's 3 whole species?
It's all due to genetics. Well, the Bornean orangutan, the males look very different from the Sumatran orangutan. When they come down from the trees to the forest floor, the Sumatran orangutan walks erect like a man, but in a different manner to the orang pendek, a very different manner. Whereas the Bornean orangutan is down on all fours, it walks on all fours. But it's down to genetics, the genetics of it. They found that the Bornean orangutan and the Sumatran orangutan speciated something like 400,000 years ago, at a time when Sumatra, Borneo, the Malayan Peninsula and Java were one landmass called Sunda. And they split as far back as that.
There were mainland orangutans, weren't there?
Yeah.
Relatively recently.
Pongo Hujiro, which was the size of a gorilla, much bigger than modern orangutans. And then there was Gigantopithecus blacki, which is unknown only from its teeth and jaws, which was thought to be an orangutan relative. And going by the teeth and jaws, this thing was enormous, way bigger than a gorilla.
Bit like him.
Me?
This
I
one.
suppose
This
so.
one. Him behind me.
Who's that? Oh, goodness.
And Richard, what was the footprint you saw then? What did that look like? Was it like a human footprint or larger than normal?
The heel looked human. It was broad. Most apes had very narrow heels. It had a broad heel, 4 toes at the front, then the offset big toe at the side, which was semi-prehensile. Now, if you see an orangutan footprints, they generally walk on the edges of their feet because they're arboreal. Their feet face sideways. Their ankles are different to ours. they're differently angled because they use their feet to grab the trees. So when they come down, they're walking on the edge of their feet, totally like the orangutan there. And it's been seen by park rangers. It's been seen by a wildlife photographer. It's seen by Debbie Marta, who was, until she retired, the head of the Indonesian Tiger Conservation Group. And all of these prominent people have seen this animal. So apart from the Tasmanian wolf, it's probably the cryptid that has the most chance of existing.
Yeah.
What about, Richard? Do you remember a few years ago there was a film that turned up on YouTube of a bunch of guys on motorbikes roaring through what looks like a sugarcane plantation?
It's in Indonesia.
Yeah, in Sumatra. And a naked little fellow with what appeared to be a bamboo spear came jumping out of the sugarcane and ran along in front of them for a while. Do you remember that?
Yes, yeah. Now that's not an orang pendek. Orang pendek is covered with long hair. This thing was hairless. It looked much more human.
Do you think it could be Floresiensis?
Well,
It
there are
was small.
stories from Sumatra
Mm.
of a second creature that lives in the jungle, which they call orang kardil. They say it's not as big and muscular as the orang pendek. And they said it looks more human. It's hairless, but apart from the head, it has long hair on the head. And they said that it hunts with bamboo spears, which sounds very like Homo floresiensis, or rather the Ibu Gogo, should I say, the legendary stories of it. And they say that it lives in the deep jungle. And our guide, Sahar, his father, I mean, Sahar passed away a number of years ago now, but his father, who's also dead, 1981, he was on a trading trip with a friend, and they were going to trade rice for other goods with other villages in what is now Kerinci Sablat National Park in Sumatra. And they were in a remote area, and they made camp one night, and they were cooking some rice, and they said this little man came out of the jungle and started to steal the rice. So Sahar's father's friend killed it with a parang, which is similar to a machete. And he said all of a sudden more of these little men appeared and stabbed this guy to death with bamboo spears.
Serves him right.
Yeah. But
Killing someone just because they took a bit of rice.
yeah, but the stories of them are a lot less prevalent than orang pendek, and in some areas the two get mixed up together.
Mm.
So it could be something similar to Floresiensis.
Mm.
Because
Is that what you- sorry.
Sorry, Griff, you
I
go.
was going to say, is that what you plan to do when you go back to Sumatra? Is go back and look for orang pendek and the other one that you just mentioned, the little man?
Yeah, both of them. And the thing on Flores may be very closely related to the thing on Sumatra. Not the orang pendek, but the orang kardil.
What I want to do, or rather what I want Richard and the gang to do, is to take a bunch of trail cams. We've got this guy called Dali Sandra Puata, isn't it?
Putra.
Is that what- yeah, who's very, very, very sweet guy, and he's been Richard's guide ever since Sahar died in, I think, 2009. And he is a very well-known, at least within Sumatra, orang pendek researcher himself, who's got a big collection of different footprints and things. What I want to do is to get a load of trail cams over and get Dali to get people he trusts to put them up in the jungle. And then every 3 months or so, go back, change the batteries, change the SD cards, and then just email Because even the jungle's smarter. They got Facebook, so they can send us any pictures, all the pictures that turn up on the SD cards can get sent back to us, and we can have them on our website within 24 hours of the guys collecting the SD cards. And that's, I think, something, it would be a good thing to do. It would also, if we pay the guys who are going to check the cameras, we're helping put some money into a fairly money deprived community. And on every level, it's a good thing to do.
Couldn't we
How many
do
cameras do you want to send, John?
I'm sorry?
How many cameras do you want to send?
Oh, Christ knows. I haven't worked it out any further than what I've just told you guys. At the moment, it is still a vague concept in the mushy soup, which is my.
could you not get people to pay to sponsor a camera? So they
Ooh,
literally buy the camera, you can buy them cheap enough, but people pay to sponsor a camera through the CFZ and raise funds that way.
Good idea.
What a brilliant idea. I hadn't thought of that.
that's a really good idea.
Well, although cameras these days, they're not as expensive as they used to be. The big thing is getting there. It's the flights out and back, and paying the guides and the transport. That's the main.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How much do you have to pay the guides for a couple of weeks?
Oh God, I can't remember. The last time it was Carl was paying it last time. So
God knows.
It's not them that's expensive, it's the ponies, isn't it, Rich?
And the
That's
people he has to bribe.
And the flannels. But
Yeah.
I was
last,
gonna say I got lots of flannels. I could send some over
Flannels
for
and-
liquid use for bride.
last
And
time you
flanges.
Nico
look at
said
this.
he would be interested in sponsoring a camera.
oh, brilliant!
There you go.
Well done, Nico, mate. Thank you. Now, Richard, last time, and we are running out of time. We've got 10 minutes left. Last time, you actually did manage to photograph a unknown animal, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. The part of Sumatra we're in this time is not supposed to have any tigers in it. The Sumatran tiger is very rare. There's only about 600 on the whole island, and the part we were in was not known to have tigers. But the local people had stories about something they called the Haramau Tinky, or it's a sort of like a were tiger, a human being that becomes a tiger, which is a widespread story in Sumatra, Haramau Tinky. And we were there looking for orang pendek, and we put out camera traps and stuff. And one time we were trekking through the jungle, and from behind a stand of bamboo, I heard this very distinctive call. It was almost like a weird laugh. Do you remember a rather preachy and very camp cartoon called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe?
Yes.
Do you remember the villain Skeletor? He had that weird high-pitched laugh. Well, it sounded like that, bizarrely. And I've heard people say that the orang pendek's call can sound like a weird laugh at times as well.
Can you try and do it, Richard?
No, it's too weird and high pitch. And Dali, he said, "That's orang pendek." And then we heard it again from behind this stand of bamboo. And this guy, Carl, said, "I'll run around the bamboo, frighten it back your way, get your camera ready." And I got my camera out, thinking this is it. It's going to run around this stand of bamboo and I'll get it on tape. But unfortunately, it ran off at an angle into the jungle, whatever it was. But we put these camera traps out, and we're looking through them. We got a Sumatran tiger.
In a place where there are no
where
tigers.
there's supposed to be no tigers.
That's cool.
Was it stalking you?
No. It was a ways from our camp. But I have been stalked back in 2013 up at Gunung Tuju in Kerinci Sablat National Park. We were stalked by a tiger.
Yeah.
The very last night of the expedition, we camped on this little beach near this volcanic lake up in the mountains, and the only place you could camp is this one little beach because the jungle goes down to the water all the way around it, except for this one area. And we'd been looking for the orang pendek in the jungle, and we'd come back and it started raining because all through the expedition we'd been lucky and it hadn't rained. So we were sitting in the camp, and we got our tents, and the native guides made a pondok, which is like a hut made out of wood,
Palms.
branches, and palm fronds. And they were playing cards, and I was talking to, the two other Europeans there. And then I got this terrible feeling of being stalked. Well, not so much being stalked, of something watching me from this path that led. There's one path that led up from the beach into the jungle, this narrow path, and I said to you, there's something along that path. The hairs on the back of my neck are sticking up. There's something that is stalking us along that path, and it's watching us. In the morning, when we came to break camp, there were tiger tracks there, and it followed us down from the jungle, and it was just a fire on the camp that had stopped it.
Oh, wow.
Bloody hell.
Lucky.
Golly, Rich. Well, I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we have 5 minutes left. So, Richard, where else do you want to go and why?
I want to go back to Tasmania. I've been there 3 times. Talked to the Tasmanian wolf, or thylacine, an animal we knew existed up until the 1930s. I've spoke to so many people that have seen it, good, reliable witnesses. I've spoken to people who've been part of mass witness occurrences, like a guy who was in a car with 5 of his friends, and they all saw this animal in the road in front of them. Another guy driving along with his wife, they both saw it, and the car behind them stopped and they saw it as well. I've talked to a guy who's a government licensed shooter who goes out culling the feral cats in the wilderness, and he's seen it twice. So I'm positive that the Tasmanian wolf is still in Tasmania, in the western side of the island, and I think it's probably in New Guinea as well. So I want to go back after that as well with baited camera traps. We can lead for long periods, and also driving around at night on the roads with a dash cam as well, and going deep into the forest. I'm in negotiation and talks at the minute with a friend of mine called Christopher Killian, who's a French filmmaker. He was there when we were stalked by the Sumatran tiger because he was making a documentary about the orang pendek. And if you go onto Amazon Prime and type in "On the Yeti Trail," you'll get and it's free. You'll get the documentary he made, which is really good. But
is it in English or in French?
It's in English. Originally, it was in French, and there's the English version now on Amazon Prime, and it's very good. We want to do a documentary where we go around the world looking for the world's biggest crocodiles in Africa, Asia, Australia, looking for giant Nile and saltwater crocodiles, anywhere from 23 to 30 odd feet long. And these massive individuals sometimes get semi-mythical status, and they're looked on as deities. There's one in a lagoon along a river in New Guinea, and the local people believe it's a water spirit and it protects them. They say it's been there for 50 years and it protects the other crocodiles. And it's a big male that's chasing the other males out of its territory.
Isn't the one in
Burundi?
Sarawak?
Yeah, there are reports of giant crocodiles from Borneo, from India, from various places in Africa, and Australia as well. Absolute monsters. In December, I'm going to India, to Odisha, to try and do a bit of a recce for this series and try and film a very big crocodile they've got there at a national park up in the north of India, just to show we can get some film. And then Chris can show this to prospective TV companies, saying, "Look, we've got one on film already. We can do a whole series on this."
Well, I tell you what, Richard, I suggest you have a word with Vivian, because Vivian is half Indian. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever told you that, but Vivian's father's Indian.
No, you've no
Yeah.
problem in that.
Yeah, I can tell you a few stories about the tigers up north. One climbed an elephant. It just clawed its way up the back of an elephant to get to the tourists having a ride on the top to go looking for the tigers. It was hilarious. Well, it weren't for them, but it was for us watching.
Oh dear.
Well, these big crocs, they will actually eat tigers. These big saltwater
yeah.
crocs and sharks and water buffalo. And the ones in Africa, they take down lions, bull sharks, giraffes. There's even a case of an adult hippo having its throat torn out by Gustav, the giant man-eater from Lake Tanganyika.
Wow.
That's in Burundi, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or Malawi.
Well, it's Lake Tanganyika is in several different countries.
No, but Gustav is. Is he Malawi or Burundi? I can't
I think
remember.
he was in Burundi, but he turns up in all sorts of places. No one's seen him in a while, and there was a rumor that he'd finally been killed, but it was never substantiated. But the lake is so big, he could be anywhere.
It'd be interesting to see an anaconda and a giant croc in full fight. I think it'd be an interesting bit of film footage to watch.
Yeah. In the biggest crocs are in the old world in Asia, Australia, and Africa. In South America, the biggest croc is the Orinoco crocodile. So that gets so big it would kill an anaconda. Anacondas take things like jaguars, small caimans, tapirs. But I have been on the track of the giant anaconda way back years ago now with a guy called Damon Corrie, who was a Arawak Indian chief. But unfortunately, we went at the wrong time of year and there's a terrible drought on, so we couldn't get the remote lakes where they're supposed to be. But that's another thing I want to go back to do. I want to go back to Guyana to look for the giant anaconda, and Brazil.
You better hurry up and go to Guyana soon, Richard. It damn near killed you last time you went.
Yeah, it's the time of year we went now. We went during drought. Ecuador is another place they're supposed to be. And Peru, the Peruvian Amazon is supposed to be a great place for these things.
Anyway, boys and girls, we've come to the end of an hour now. Where the hell did that time go? Hour and a half. It's just gone like.
Does, isn't it?
We're going to have Richard back on the show again, aren't we?
Can we please?
Oh, you
Yes. Yes,
want
we
to know,
must.
can you keep him?
We must. And
No.
can he do that trick again next time where he says like a man erect without you laughing, Jonathan?
No, I think Chantel wants him to say Homo erectus again.
Yes.
Homo erectus.
Oh, isn't it great to be serious scientists?
Apparently, very common in the south, unheard of in the north.
Well, do they drink shandy?
Yeah.
Boys and girls, it's time to go. We'll be back in a month's time. I have no idea who is going to be. Now, Chantal says she wants you to bring her back a capybara, Richard.
No, I looked after them back in the days when I was a zookeeper. When they're babies, they look exactly like guinea pigs. So I thought it would be a wonderful wheeze to sell a couple of baby ones to an old lady, selling her that they grow to the size of Alsatians.
You are a horrible human being.
They're
Boys
cute.
and girls, it is time to go. We'll be back next month. I have no idea who we're going
Next
to have.
week.
No, not next week. Next month, you ridiculous woman.
Oh, next month, yeah.
Me and
sorry.
Vivian will be back next week. Who's our guest next week, Vivi Pops?
I can't remember. I've forgotten.
That
I better
shows
check. Hang on.
what a wonderful professional outfit we are. We'll see you then. And there's only one thing to do now. Time to go home, time to go home from your simply spooky adrenaline ride. Time to go home, time to go home, even if you're terrified. Goodbye. Time to go home, time to go home. Vivian and her weird friends are all going home. Time to go home, time to go home. Vivian is waving goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.